My name is Christine Cook, and I was in Rhonda's teacher training about 3 years ago. And part of the training, you all know you have to do a creative project to graduate. And my creative project was this little booklet that's inside your folders called Yoga and Veganism. Does it matter what a yogi eats? So I put this project together and presented it to the class. I was terrified, practically in tears when I was presenting it, because it was for me to speak about something that mattered so much to me was really a challenge, because it seems extreme and controversial. But I think it's important for yogis to think about this. So I did it. And Rhonda was very open to it, and so I've been speaking to all her teacher trainings about yoga and veganism since then. I guess I've been doing it for 3 years now. So anyway, first I passed out folders for you all, and I just want to go through what's in them. They're all pretty much the same. There's my creative project. And then there's a little article that I wrote recently for another blog that kind of gives you my experience as how I came to be vegan. It was a long journey. I was very resistant. There's also on the back of that vegan cheese that I highly recommend everyone who thinks that they could never give up cheese, that they try this. It's available at Whole Foods, Daiya cheese. There's also, I photocopied part of a chapter in this book called Yoga and Vegetarianism, which I'll pass around. And it talks about the day in a life of a dairy cow. Then there's a couple more articles that are from the internet and from my blog. And then a couple of brochures from Mercy for Animals, which is a nonprofit group that works to protect animals, and they're based in Chicago. So if you're ever looking to volunteer for animals, it's a great group to look into. And then there's also something from Vegan Outreach, which is another great nonprofit. And then I have some old copies of Veg News magazine. Some of them are quite dated, but a lot of people haven't seen this magazine, so I thought it's useful to pass these out to all of you. You can buy this at Whole Foods a lot of the time, and then major bookstores, and then of course online. The materials. And then I want to pass out some books as we're talking, because I'm going to do some talking, but then we're also going to just have a group discussion on. So pass that one book, okay. I guess first let me just kind of go through my creative project, how this all started. I was very resistant to becoming vegan. I guess the road started when I was 17 back in 1986. But it was a long journey, and it took, I'll be vegan 7 years in January. So it was very long. I was a vegetarian, but I ate fish all the time, so I really wasn't vegetarian. It's hard. Change is hard, and we all know that. But I've been thinking about this talk a lot leading up to it. I was, something that struck me was I started yoga in the mid-90s. And I do think that yoga, the more you practice it, the more you become a little more conscious, a little more awake, and I think you can't help it. It just is part of a regular practice. So I had a little, in the early 2000s, I did go back to eating meat for 3 years, and I felt guilty the entire time. So I went vegetarian for a year, and finally I just did it and went vegan. It was really because I was volunteering in a shelter with cats and dogs, and one of my friends, fellow volunteer who I became friends with, she was kind of toying with being vegan, and she said one day, well, the dairy cows they take the male calves away as soon as they're born because they become veal. And then I was like, oh. And it was kind of like I knew I couldn't hide anymore, but I really think that was really why I went vegan. But I think because I practiced yoga, I knew I couldn't hide anymore, and that wasn't a way I could live and feel good about it. So I just wanted to, talk about some, because I know a lot of people who practice yoga are vegetarians, some aren't, and this is never a judgment about where anybody is on their own path. Like I said, it took me a long time to get where I am. But I like to talk about about dairy and eggs, because that's usually what people are eating. And it is factory farms and beef and all the meat. It's great to give that up. That's definitely a good thing. But eggs and dairy are really just as harmful as the meat. So I'll just read a couple paragraphs from my creative project that I had written about, because it stems from, this vegetarian diet that they say yogis should eat. And maybe thousands of years ago, it was a strict vegetarian diet. There wasn't any eggs and dairy, but it since then has become eggs and dairy are, very common. But thousands of years ago, there weren't factory farms. So even if they were eating eggs and dairy, it came about in a very different way, in a much more natural way. So what I had written in here was that dairy cows are impregnated by force, constantly pregnant or lactating until they are no longer of use and then sold for meat. And the male calves are taken away immediately, either for veal or to be raised for beef. Eggs come from chickens living in tiny cages smashed up against each other without access to sunlight and room to spread their wings for their entire lives. Even cage-free eggs come from hens that have had their beaks mutilated by force so they won't harm each other. And the hatcheries where these hens are raised destroy male chicks immediately, since they cannot lay eggs, as if useless. So as I was reading all the yoga material, something that Iyengar had written in Light on Yoga was the word ahimsa. And that's the first yama. And you guys are studying the yamas, right? So it's the first yama. It means non-violence, non-harming. So something he wrote that struck me and was that I put on the first page of my project was, the word ahimsa is made up of the particle ah, meaning not, and the noun himsa, meaning killing or violence. It is more than a negative command not to kill, for it has a wider positive meaning, love. This love embraces all creation, for we are all the children of the same Father. The yogi believes that to kill or to destroy a thing or being is to insult its creator. That struck me. So I like to just have a discussion about, what you all are thinking. And I don't know, is there any vegetarians or vegans in the room? You. So, well, I was the same way. So that's about half the room. So I just like to have a discussion, because there's always a lot of what's wrong with dairy, what's wrong with eggs. Well, I kind of just today, it's like I'm just going to read it from what I had, and we can start talking about it if you have questions. There's always the nutrition standpoint that everyone's concerned they're not going to be healthy. I'm not a nutrition expert, but I can usually find the information that if you have questions, if I can't answer it today. And the other thing is about cooking the food. Personally, as a vegan, I think cooking is one of the most important skills you can have, and not even as a vegan, just in life. If you can cook healthy food, that is really helpful to any diet that you eat. And so there's a lot of information out there that's really helpful, and I like to be able to share that with you all as well. And you can always contact me after the talk. My information is on that page that says It's Easy Being Vegan. So does anybody want to start with asking questions? You have a question?
Oh, no, I have a question.
Okay.
I was just thinking about, up until I moved to Chicago a month ago, I was actually a localivore, meaning that I only ate food that was made within 30 miles of where I lived. Not all food, I mean, I only ate eggs or dairy that was made within 30 miles of where I lived. That's another fun thing. Actually, Chicago is pretty easy. Dill Pickle Co-op is actually really awesome. They're off of Milwaukee Avenue. If you look them up, you can become a member for $30, and they've got a list of over 120 farms that supply, and they're all from within 50 miles in the greater Chicago area. So,
Dill Pickle Co-op?
Yeah, the Dill Pickle Co-op.
I think I've heard of that.
They're really cool.
I've never been
They're
there.
nice people, too.
Okay.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Well, first of all, just in response to what you said, I became vegan. Gosh, I think I think I'm saying, I think you might be a year older than me because I heard it in a year. But when I was really young, I was in my middle 20s, late 20s, because of all the stuff that you just talked about. Because I thought, oh my God, how could I put that in my body? And how could I harm another animal? And just the violence. So I think I have two things. So first of all, I actually, now I try to really consciously, I don't really eat meat much, but I eat fish. And dairy, I was vegan, too. So, and I eat dairy now, which I know I need to get away from. But I try to choose it consciously for that humanitarian reason. So I kind of wanted to ask you about that. But then the second thing I wanted to ask you about is I like to look at nature, and we actually have carnivore teeth. So my question is that, according to nature, we should be eating some meat, just because we actually have carnivore teeth. So that is a question I've been meaning to ask for years. So
I've read, I'm definitely not a science expert either. But I don't think that we do actually have carnivore teeth, because we don't have these big canines like my cat. But you really don't. My cat has these fangs that, 4 of them, and those definitely are for ripping. So there's definitely information out there that will talk about that we don't have carnivore teeth, and that our digestive system that is so long, it takes so long for food to go through our system, that is not conducive to eating meat either. Whereas a cat is, it just goes in and out. And I use cat because it's just very common knowledge that, and most people are in agreement that they're carnivores.
So you're saying that that's not true?
Yeah,
What you're saying?
that's my understanding.
It's the opposite, because I thought these teeth back
Well,
here were carnivore teeth.
I guess also it is really dependent on where you read your information too. That is one of the things that I learn more and more as I get older. And yes, I am a proponent of being vegan. I am. I think it's the best way. It's the best decision I ever finally made. But I also know that there's a lot of information that is just going to tell me exactly how it is to be vegan, and they're going to come from that perspective. Whereas the same can happen for someone who's anti-vegan. They can come up with information that way. So you have to just critical thinking. Yeah, you just have to use your critical thinking skills.
And also just historically looking, what region people live in and how their bodies evolved to adapt to and survive in places where they, that were so dry nothing grew. So they were forced to go to certain animals to survive. So I think, through archaeology and anthropology, it would depend on where that person lived and what region, and even now where people live. Mm-hmm. It's affecting how their teeth are evolving, how their bodies are changing or not changing, and so forth. So I'm sure there's definitely a period of time when certain people in certain regions or bigger parts of the world were eating meat for survival, and that we're at a point where we don't have to do that anymore. And that's really here in the States.
Yeah.
And then, again, still where you live, even in this day and age, it's going to depend on what you have, what food you have access to.
I like to look at it as that, you know, maybe I was meant to eat meat originally, or maybe I could eat meat and I would be perfectly healthy. But from my perspective, I don't need to eat meat. So, and I can be perfectly healthy. And that's the way I choose to live, because I don't think I need it. But that does not mean that it was easy and it wasn't a hard change to make, because it is. It's such a, food is very focused around traditions. I mean, think about Thanksgiving. You know, it's like that big turkey on the table. That's just such a tradition that most people just can't even wrap their brain around, like removing that from the table. So it is a big change. So although I finally made it and I love living this way, I just encourage people to take small steps to where they're comfortable.
It wasn't hard for me at all. That's what was weird about it. It's hard for me to keep it now, because I do feel like my body had been, you know, I'm thinking nutrition-wise, and you know, and then I'm hoping you'll answer the other question about choosing more consciously too.
So what do you want to know about? Say that again.
So, I mean, I'm kind of struggling with this, because for some reason it was very easy when I was younger. It was, I don't know, it was very easy. It was not a problem for me, but it's harder for me now. So I'm concerned a little bit about health, you know, getting arthritis in my knees and stuff, but also, so I've tried to choose more consciously, like, you know, eggs that are raised from a farm, animals that are raised naturally, you know, and so, you know, I guess I don't know, that's what I do. So I don't know, however you want to answer that, but that's what I've been doing, so.
In terms of nutrition, there's a couple of books that I think are good to read, and I'll pass those around. I'll do it this way and this way. But there's one, I don't have a copy of it yet. I asked for it for Christmas, so hopefully I will get that soon. But it's called Vegan for Life. And that was written by 2 registered dietitians. Vegan for Life, it's new this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a new book this year, and I've heard really great reviews on that. So I would recommend, if you have nutrition questions. So I have this conversation a lot with a certain someone, and we have, these are 2 registered dietitians who are vegan. So the way I look at it is they want other people to be vegan, and but they only want it if it can be healthy. And so they tell you the good and the bad of it. So the bad, from what I understand, is maybe I have to supplement a couple of nutrients that are harder for me to get. B12. Everyone who's vegan should be taking a B12 in some way. The other thing that I've heard recently from these 2 authors, was possibly needing iodine. If you like are using sea salt, which is all the rage now, it doesn't have the iodine in it. So just regular table salt would give you that iodine. But there's things like that. That's really a book that I think would probably be beneficial to you in that way. Again, you always have to do where you feel most comfortable and healthy. I mean, you don't want to jeopardize your health, so I suggest seeing a doctor if, you know, that helps. But reading about vegan nutrition will maybe give you ideas. But in terms of just choosing consciously, you just have to do it as you're ready.
Right, and I mean, I totally agree with you on the whole humanitarian thing, so I think I'm glad you're here to share that.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to show something.
No, it's great.
Do you want to talk what your experience has been with soy?
Soy. You know, I haven't had any problems with soy. I don't eat a ton of it. I don't drink soy milk normally. I like hemp milk, but I'll drink soy milk. You know, I'll drink any of those, you know, dairy-free milks. But I personally like hemp milk in my cereal because Whole Foods sells unsweetened vanilla, and I really like that. And I haven't seen unsweetened vanilla soy milk at Whole Foods, but actually, I did find it at Trader Joe's recently, so it's just maybe a matter of looking in the right places. But I eat tofu on salads pretty regularly. That's really where I get my soy, is some tofu. It's been fine for me. Yep.
As an adult, you've made a lifestyle decision. I have a colleague who's raising 2 girls, 8 and 10 vegetarians. And there's a lot of controversy about children, and they don't seem all that healthy and they're always sick. Do you have an opinion about vegetarian families?
I do have an opinion. My fiance has a 16-year-old daughter who's been vegetarian her whole life. So she was, she's never, what if she had meat one time? She's tried like a bite of something maybe, Bill? But she's vegetarian. If I were having children, which, I'm not going to have children, but if I was, I would be raising them vegan. I know people that raise their kids vegan. It's just, I don't really think it's that controversial because it's really the parents' business. I guess is where I stand on that. They can be healthy if they eat a well-balanced diet. But that is true for any kind of diet. And in this society, processed foods, packaged foods is so big in the majority of kids' diets that it's hard to really comment on why they aren't healthy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm the only vegetarian in my family. I became vegetarian when I was 8. Like, as soon as my parents told me where meat came from, I decided nothing to do with it ever again. And, like, I'm the only one. I've got 4 brothers, they all eat meat. My mom eats meat, my dad eats meat, my cousins, my uncles, they all eat meat. And I'm also lactose intolerant and have been since birth, so I don't have dairy. Like, I occasionally have dairy, but like, it's not been a frequent thing in my lifestyle. And my bone density is good. They check me on that. I am anemic, but it's the kind of anemia that's hereditary. It has nothing to do with my diet. And I think I'm like a spry, healthy person. So
You seem spry and healthy.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a misconception, and I know recently there was a legal case where 2 parents got put in jail for life because their infant died because they were raising this child who was vegan. But I don't know how you felt about that, but I thought that it was completely outrageous. But
Yeah, I feel like that isn't because they're vegan. It's because of what they fed them they weren't feeding them a healthy diet.
yeah.
I mean, I like to look at myself, and I guess one of the things about being vegan, if I'm going to speak to any groups of people about being vegan, I feel like I've got to take care of myself and be healthy, and so I'm setting a good example. And I mean, I look healthy, don't I? So it's kind of, and I feel healthy, it works for me. I'm surprised every day that it works for me because I was so resistant. It's just words don't really describe how I had this feeling all my life, it was 19 years, that this is what I should be doing and I don't want to do it because it's so different. For me, it was very social. I wanted to be vegan, but no one else is vegan and I don't want to be different. I just want to fit in. So you can't do that, especially back in 1986 in Evansville, Indiana. So, and even here now, in Chicago's this big city and it's very vegan friendly. There's not many other places in the world that you could be vegan and make it as easy as it is here. But it's still, I don't fit in. And I had to come to terms with that in a lot of ways. At work, I work in the corporate world, and I'm the vegan, or, oh, what is she gonna eat? She won't want to go, or, but it doesn't bother me like I thought it would bother me. I'm just like, yeah, this is my lifestyle, and I know that I'm doing it for the right reasons, and it's beneficial to more than just me, and it's just become a point where I'm not concerned whether anyone accepts it or not. And I actually have very good support at work and friends and family, and So I think I'm just lucky all around. But
I find it really interesting. I had a dinner party a while ago at my home, and there were 8 people, and then somebody came up and said, you know, I think he ate peanut butter. I mean, there's nothing I could serve him. And I wish I would have known, or do you come with your own food when you go to parties?
well, this is really funny because I would always offer to bring food. If I am invited to an omnivore's home, I will bring something. I am happy. I will make more than one dish. I will do whatever. If they tell me they want me to help, I will help. And I think most vegans would feel the same way. So don't invite vegans because they're vegan. Just talk to them. And Bill and I were just having this conversation about, I said, this couple probably wouldn't invite us to dinner because I was vegan. And, see, I even have these concepts that are so limiting, I have to work on this every day. So on my blog, because I said that to him, I thought, well, I want people to invite me to dinner, not because of what food I eat. I don't care. It's a social experience. So I wrote this short little letter on my blog to omnivores. Said, dear omnivores, please invite us vegans to dinner. We would be happy to bring food, help in any way. We will not talk about factory farming at dinner. I mean, we will not even bring it up unless you ask us, but we would still not talk about it while food's on the table. And, I just went, and I did it with a lighthearted letter, but it really got me to thinking that there's a lot of people that probably are really put off by this, and I live in this little vegan world, and I forget that everyone else isn't vegan. So, yeah, you can bring food, or there are people that be like, oh no, I'd be happy. They want to be able to accommodate you. And maybe it's just offering suggestions and they'll fix them. There's so many good vegan websites that have tons of recipes, so you don't even have to have vegan cookbooks, which I do want to pass around a couple of books mentioning it. This is my very favorite vegan cookbook. If you don't have a vegan cookbook and you're going to get one, this is the one I suggest. Everything in it has been delicious, and don't get me wrong, there's a ton of really good ones out there, but this just happens to be my personal favorite. And then I had given, you all have a copy of Veg News in your folders, and that always has tons of recipes in it as well, and those are going to be all vegan. Vegetarian Times actually has quite a few vegan recipes in there nowadays, so you have to look at the recipe if you're interested in it being vegan, and it will say if it's vegan or not. But I'll pass that around too. And then a couple other books that I think are they're really worth reading. One is Eating Animals, if you want to learn more about how your meat comes to your table. He is an excellent writer, Jonathan Safran Foer. He's excellent. He's good at storytelling. So there'll be sad parts in there, but then he'll get you, smiling again soon. So it's a good book to read. And then this is an older book from 2000 called The Inner Art of Vegetarianism. It's actually about being vegan. And I just actually found it the other day. I'd never read it, and I read it a couple weeks ago. This is a really good book. I actually think this book is I prefer this one over this one in terms of yoga and veganism and how they relate to each other. It's called The Inner Art of Vegetarianism, Spiritual Practices for Body and Soul. She practices yoga. She's not a yoga teacher. She's more, I think she was a minister or something. Maybe she isn't anymore, but she has her own yoga practice. So she relates on how it related for her, how she came to learn about being vegetarian first in the 70s and then moving on to becoming vegan. So that's another good book to read. You can find all these on Amazon. Some, buy them used, and they're really pretty inexpensive. Anybody want to say anything else?
I was just gonna throw it out when serving food, like actually seriously invite us out to lunch, because like I have like the most dietary restrictions in the world, and like it gets really lonely if nobody ever wants to go to lunch with you. So like they all go to like Poncheros, and you just kind of like stand there because you can't go. But just be aware if you're gonna try to make a vegan dish. Like really try to don't tell somebody something's vegan if it's not.
Yeah.
And also like different vegans have different perspectives. Like I eat honey. I don't have anything against eating honey. I'm not actually vegan, but like I have been. But other vegans they won't eat it. And then like breads from the supermarket might have butter in them, and you didn't know that. And so like, or croutons, like if you have a crouton in a salad, it might be from a bread that has butter in it. And like it's hard to be aware, but simplicity is best. Like, carrots are vegan.
I think it's just, being open to having conversations with people and asking them what, they eat, and also at the same time being willing to speak up for yourself in a kind way. Like people mostly want to meet your needs, but if you don't speak up for yourself, then that isn't going to happen because they don't read your mind. And that's unfortunate, but
I want to just comment how to start move on that journey, and then you talk about it too. Because when you're trying to eat that way, it's your family or your partner, or in my case, my husband, is open to it as long as he understands it, and he's lactose intolerant too, which makes it easy. And it's been a while, but I came home just into the Friday night or Saturday night after teacher training, and he'd made brown rice, sauteed mushrooms, not in butter, and he can't have butter, so sauteed mushrooms, brown rice, steamed vegetables, several different kinds, and then fruit for dessert. And I was just blown away. Like, wow. He said, yeah, I just looked for everything in the house that I could cook and decided to put it together, and this is turned out to be a great dish.
yeah.
So I think, and of course he knows this because we've been doing it at home, cooking and trying to figure out meals and so forth, because I'm trying to help him with some health issues to bring him off meats, and because he's already up to date. So I think the more he learns and figures out how simple it is, and that he can even do the cooking, I think he feels more free. He doesn't feel like it's an impossible thing to do. Salads and vegetables, as Erin said, is simple. And the fresher, the better.
Yeah.
You're trying to eat healthy. And also, I asked, I said, how much do you think, because I knew we were having this talk, how much do you think the meal costs? He said it had to be under $10. And the stuff's organic, the vegetables we had too.
Yeah.
So it's not only cheaper, healthier, satisfying, but something that he could actually cook.
It's true.
So it's a good experience.
It's true. It does a lot of it goes back to cooking, and learning how to cook, because everyone, even if someone's been cooking their whole life, they're used to having meat as their main portion, and then like these little side dishes of a salad or, steamed broccoli, something. But learning how to cook all the different, that kind of got about that. Because someone had made a comment on my blog that they just want simple recipes. They're like, I just need simple. And so, so then one night so I could post on my blog, I made this pasta dish with sauteed mushrooms, and then I think we had spinach, and they had balsamic and olive oil on it. Really easy, and it tasted good. And that's not expensive. I think it is a misconception that vegan diet is expensive. If you're going to eat all the packaged food, like the vegan meats and cheeses, yeah, that's probably going to cost more, but that's not actually the healthy diet. And you find the same with people who eat meat. There are healthy vegans, and then there are not healthy vegans, and it depends on what they eat. It's just, I try to eat healthy the majority of the time, but I don't eat healthy all the time. It's impossible. So I just do the best that I can on a daily basis. But I don't think it's that expensive. There is a cookbook, I don't know anything about it, I've just seen it, eating vegan on $4 a day or something like that. So that's pretty cheap.
Can you talk about your transition?
Uh-huh.
How you did it and how you maintain it?
Yep.
And some examples of your meals.
Yeah. So when I finally decided to go vegan, it was probably about this time, 7 years ago, and I set a date for January 1st because it wasn't a New Year's resolution or anything like that. I was going on vacation, and honestly, I didn't want to deal with my family. I just was like, I'm going to be at their house, and there's too much change all at once. Let me just do this on my own, and then the next time I go visit, So the first couple of years I was vegan, I was not a healthy vegan. I used all the transition foods, vegan meat all the time. I mean, and I still actually love like a turkey sandwich, but I ate, anything that was vegan, I was just happy to see that it was vegan. It was a cookie, I was happy. I went to Blind Faith all the time because they have the best vegan chocolate cake ever. So, it's just, this was not about health for me, and I'm pretty clear about it. It is about the animals, so this was definitely a transition for me to become a healthy vegan. So over time, maybe the first 2 years, I was probably not, if it was vegan, I ate it. It didn't matter if it was a fresh fruit, vegetable, cookie, whatever. Then over time, I decided I wanted to be eating healthier and making changes, and so I just slowly started. Well, one of the big changes that really helped me become as healthy as I am today, in my opinion, is this book, Eat to Live, because he really. It's a weight loss book, but even if you don't need to lose weight, I think you can get some beneficial information. I'm sure there's other books that you could read and get this information from too in this way, but it just kind of reinforced why fruits and vegetables were really important. Because, when you're a kid, your parents tell you to eat fruits and vegetables, they're good for you. But that does not tell me why they're good for me. And I didn't study nutrition as, a young adult. And so just as I get older, I want to make sure that I'm healthy as I age. And this was really useful for me. And the China Study is also a good book, especially if you eat dairy. You find it interesting. Speaking of dairy, the transition for me 7 years ago, I thought, I don't know how I'm going to live without cheese. I mean, I thought I thought I would die. I thought this is going to be the hardest thing ever to give up. Honestly, I don't miss it at all. And there is a good vegan cheese now if I ever want something really.
Is it soy, the vegan cheese?
No, actually the Daiya cheese is not soy. It's, I wonder, I'm just looking to see if they have the ingredients on here. You do. It's not, there isn't soy in it, but it doesn't, if you look online, it has the ingredients, but it's not soy. But I don't miss cheese at all. And it's not to say that I never have this vegan cheese. I do have it every once in a while, but every once in a while is at most like once a month. Whereas I thought, oh my God, how am I going to live every day of my life without cheese? I mean, I know I make a big deal of that, but I know a lot of people, that's the first thing people say to me when they say I'm vegan. When I say I'm vegan, they're like, oh, I can never give up cheese. And I just think, I bet you could, because I did, and it was, I thought it was going to be awful, but it's really actually great. But it was that and the leather shoes. I thought I could never give up cheese, and then I'm going to have to wear ugly shoes the rest of my life because they're not going to make any cute vegan shoes. So there was all this really stuff ingrained in how I was raised and being socially accepted and all that. So, but now we eat pretty healthy most of the time. I'm not going to say all of the time, but I have a focus on making sure I have vegetables, and I have a green smoothie every day. So with my green smoothie, there's fruit in there too. I get a lot of my daily, I don't get all of it, but I get a lot of my daily requirement right there. So that helps me.
Is it a powder you add to it, or what do you make?
I do use a powder, but I don't use very much of it. I don't use the full serving size, but I have quite a large blender, and I stuff it about the bottom third is spinach or kale or any greens. I mean, I've used salad greens, anything. I stuff it to the bottom, and then I will put a scoop of it's called Vega meal replacement. There's different kinds. I can email it to you, Rhonda. But I use that, just a scoop of the powder, because it's a berry flavored. It kind of gives it a flavor that I like. Then I have an apple, a pear, a banana, and then some frozen fruit. And then I usually put like maybe 2 cups of orange juice and then the rest water. Blend it up, and you cannot tell. I can't tell there's spinach. So, because there's so much sweet in there. And that's 2 smoothies. So they're pretty big smoothies, but I'm not eating that whole thing in one day. I usually save half of it for the next day. But
Can you email the recipe?
yeah, I have that on my blog. I'll send it to Rhonda, and she can send it to everyone. Yep.
How do you make your meals like taste hearty? Because my boyfriend, like his biggest complaint is, I like meat because it makes me feel hearty.
Well, I'll tell you how I eat. But book, it's new. I'll find it, and I'll also email that to Rhonda. It's about hearty vegan meals or something. It's exactly for that reason. So I'll send that. Can I use your pen?
Well, my husband loved the brown rice in there, and it was so filling. It really
Right,
was.
and beans, I know that, but a lot of meals feel like they think it's not a meal unless it has some meat in it.
When it all comes together, though, it's filling.
And like the Chicago Diner, like I mean I've heard that before too. Chicago Diner has like a biscuit and gravy vegan breakfast, and it's like
I should take
it's amazing. And so like you should just take them there and be like, hey, this is vegan, like not only is it vegetarian, it's vegan.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure I mentioned that new restaurant today. There's actually 3 locations now. Native Foods.
Native. Got the biggest complaint letter from that I've ever sent in my whole life. I'm latex sensitive, and they are so responsible about all these different allergies, but they are not a latex safe facility.
Really?
Yeah, and they wouldn't work with me on it. So I actually don't like them.
Well, so if you're not latex sensitive, it's a really good vegan restaurant. There's 3 locations now. It's brand new. In the past 6 months, there's one in Wicker Park, on Milwaukee. Native Foods. Native Foods Cafe. Yeah.
They are very sure.
And then there's one on Belmont in Lakeview, like close to the L stop, the red brown line stop. And then there's one downtown the Loop now that just opened maybe last week. It's similar to the Chicago Diner if you've been there. Very hearty food. But I wanted to get back to your question about, because you have a soy intolerance. Seitan is a really great meat replacement. Yeah, and it's really easy to make. I have a recipe. Sorry. I should have a pen. I'll send that recipe too. But seitan is a wheat meat. It's wheat gluten, and then mine has water and some spices, and thank you, and some soy sauce. It's very hearty and meat-like. If you are gluten-free, that wouldn't work for you. But in terms of hearty meals, seitan, tofu, tempeh, brown rice, always having a grain. I think also having like some kind of fat in there is good. So having avocado, which is a good fat, those are really makes it, yeah. I mean, if you just have this low-fat meal with veggies and, and a little brown rice, he's probably not going to be satisfied. And, and maybe over time, as he eats more and more of it, he will become more satisfied. It's a matter of changing your taste buds, and that can happen. You just have to be open to change. In general, you have to be open to change.
Make rice and vegetable water. Vegetable broth. It also gives it a much heartier flavor. Just to add something to a meal to make it seem like it has more substance.
Olive oil,
Yeah, like
olives,
olives.
and the richness of some of those kind of products.
Yeah, I do with a lot of quinoa. I figure like quinoa black bean burgers are like, yeah, it's really great.
There's, in like Veganism, there's a recipe for a lasagna that I would say is a hearty meal. We made pot pies out of there, I think, that was seitan, and that was super hearty.
Vegan like stuffed shells or lasagna. It's really easy. It's just like tofu and lemon juice. It's super easy.
I think that's one of my favorite parts about being vegan is it almost requires me to be more creative in the kitchen and more experimental and trying new things and evolving a recipe past the omnivore. Because, like a pot pie. We could have made a veggie pot pie, but we had seitan in it, and this was just as hearty as the meat version. But I do think that for me, it really opened up my eyes to all these different kinds of ethnic foods that I hadn't eaten before when I was an omnivore, because I was just eating this regular diet that really wasn't, it was like this straight and narrow diet, whether it was healthy or not. I went through my phases where I was more healthy eater than others, but it wasn't trying Ethiopian food or Indian food, all these different types of food that have a lot of vegan options.
And most Indian places are actually vegan, and they don't even have to put that they're vegan. It's just part of the culture.
It's also easy to find vegetarian options in Chicago.
Yeah.
Anywhere you go now.
Yeah, there's in that folder is the newest copy of the Vegetarian Guide to Chicago that Mercy for Animal makes. So, it's always being updated online. And restaurants come and go, but there are a lot of vegan restaurants in Chicago and quite a few vegetarian, which are also then vegan friendly. There is no shortage of places that you can eat and be satisfied. Here, we're lucky. Yep. Rhonda, do you want to talk about that? You probably know more than it's the thyroid.
Because of estrogen in the soil, it can perhaps aggravate certain issues in certain people, depending on what age they are, and women and young girls, and it just depends. And
So is it worth to eat it in moderation than
some
avoid
sense,
it at all?
well, or some sort, depending on what's going on with you personally, or personally, make sure and get a medical workup and find out what's going on with them. And it might be that they want to either take soy out altogether from their diet or just eat it in small doses. But yeah, I think everyone just depends. Maybe you have a history of somebody's family you're worried, not you, someone's worried about, or if you have digestive issues or hormonal issues. So I think it really depends. But it's definitely worth looking into and considering that if you should eat soy or not, and how much of it you can eat.
Does anybody else have any questions or anything they want to talk about? Okay.
When you say they eat vegan, what is unhealthy?
So I made a comment about packaged and processed foods.
So there is like vegan, just like that.
Yeah, there's gobs and gobs.
Like Oreos are vegan, Twizzlers are vegan, and like I know vegans that they were like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm just gonna eat Oreos and Twizzlers every day all day.
So yeah.
Or there's a lot, one of my friends who was vegan, when she first started coloring, she was only eating things like carbs, so she wasn't getting a lot of nutrition, she got really weak and really tired all the time. Like that's the way to be vegan wrong, is just not eating enough like kale and greens and that kind of thing. You need to grow out of the diet, really unhealthy, so if you don't take those nutrients.
So there's vegan cheeses, vegan meats. That's all processed. There's Oreos are technically vegan. There's all kinds of just junk. But I mean, so when I define, so that's where I would eat whatever. A cookie, it's vegan, great. Exactly, bring it on. I'm just so happy. Initially, I was just so happy that I could have all these options that were similar to what omnivores were eating. That's where I was at. That's it. I wasn't trying to think more broadly than that. Luckily, I have moved on, and I have more. I have a different definition of what I want to eat and how. In terms of a healthy diet, I just try most of the time to eat whole foods that aren't processed. And if I do eat processed food, if I have vegan meat, which like we had vegan turkey sandwiches today for lunch. We had I want to add lettuce. Like that just makes me feel better about it. And then we had hummus on it and avocado and just trying to increase the nutrients in the food. But I really try to eat most of the time a whole foods diet. That's really fresh food. I don't think you can go wrong. And a wide variety of food. I think I tend to eat a lot of the same things, and Bill's really good about all this variety, so that's kind of changing for me. I tend to eat a little bit more things that I didn't normally eat or just wasn't interested in or didn't know about.
So if you go out, socially, did it hinder your social relationship with people and dinners and parties or like holidays or it's like, I don't know.
I've had my experiences where they,
It wouldn't, because
yeah.
food is like such a huge part of
It does.
socializing.
It does.
Unless you're with just people that are vegetarians or vegan.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you're not people, everybody.
Yeah.
People of all, whatever they eat. So was it a transition or did it get easier or did it be like, when you just started?
It was hard when I started, and sometimes it's hard now. I am not gonna, I write this blog called It's Easy Being Vegan. But I say I want to write a book called It's Easy Being Vegan, except when it's not. Because it's not always easy. And, it's just something that I made a commitment to no matter what. And I'm willing to handle the challenges. Holidays aren't always easy. I have certain family members that are more supportive than others. This year for Thanksgiving, because last year I went to my brother's for Thanksgiving and they're not that supportive of a vegan diet. This year I was like, I'm going to my friends who hosts a vegan Thanksgiving every year, and I was like, that's what I want to do because I don't want it to be a celebration around a big turkey. It's about being with people, and it's for me that just was a choice I was making. Most of my family is supportive of it. Are they vegan? No, but they support the way I eat. And same with my friends. I have quite a few vegan friends, but I also have a lot that aren't, and they're very supportive of, and they will invite me out. One of the things that I found actually with my omnivore friends is because I'm their vegan friend, I'm like the token vegan of the people they know, they're always happy to go to a vegan restaurant because they don't ever go, and my friends are fairly open-minded people, and they'll try that, and they've always had good food and they enjoy it. Are they going to go vegan anytime soon? Probably not. But they're willing to do that. And I will always try to go to what I call an equal opportunity restaurant, because I definitely want to go someplace where I can eat, but where they're going to be happy too. And I have a friend that lives in Wisconsin, and she comes down. A lot of times we'll go to Heartland Cafe because it's in my neighborhood, and it's a typical equal opportunity restaurant. They have tons of meat dishes. They have quite a few vegan dishes, and then vegetarian. So I'm like, everyone can eat here and be happy. And that's, I don't want it to interfere with my relationships. I want to have my friends, but I still want to live in the way that I feel best about. And it's very important when you make a change like this. It doesn't matter what the change is, whether you're vegan or you're gay and you're going to come out of the closet or anything that's so social, there's such a social component to it, is to find your tribe. You need to find people that will support you, whether they're vegan or not. It doesn't matter. You need to have people that will support you, because there's going to be the people who don't. Oh, keep going.
So when you started, did you see like a change in your body? Did you feel better, like you had more energy, or you felt healthier? You didn't feel like sometimes you eat food or salt and you swell, or just did you eat white sugar?
I try not to. It's been really bad lately with the holidays. But I definitely try not to eat white sugar. I don't have a huge sweet tooth, so I like ice cream, but soy ice cream. But I try not to eat that very often. I can't say that I noticed a huge difference. I think I was also going through some other things. So when I started eating meat again for those 3 years, I gained a lot of weight. And so then I went vegetarian for a year, and then I was vegan for a year before, I think it was like a year before I decided, okay, I need to lose weight. I need to get back to my natural size, because I just was eating too much, basically. So there was a lot more to it. I can't just say that I was this normal. I had other things going on. So once I lost weight, did I feel a bit better? Absolutely. I think I lost 20, 25 pounds.
When you went vegan?
No, when I went, I was vegan for a year probably before I actually intentionally lost this weight. I did not ever lose weight as a vegan naturally.
Okay, so it's not like you become thinner when you're vegan?
No.
You just have to
Some-
eat healthier vegan choices.
Yes.
To lose weight, just like you eat.
Some people say they lose weight. Unfortunately, that was not my experience. And I intentionally went on a diet because I was 25 pounds overweight. So, where I have felt the healthiest is he has this eating plan in here, Dr. Furman's. He has a 6-week plan where it kind of jump starts weight loss, and then he has an ongoing plan that isn't about weight loss. It's just about eating healthy. And when I eat what he says in here, when I eat that way, that's when I feel the healthiest. It's I don't know if I have it underlined, but mainly what he suggests eating is vegetables, fruits, whole grains, nuts and seeds, and tofu. He doesn't, this is a strict diet, but this is actually where I feel the healthiest when I eat this way. There isn't anything processed in there.
How about alcohol? Can you drink that? It's okay to have, or is it sort of shown
I drink red wine every now and then. I have a beer if I have a lot of lemon in it, because I don't love beer, but there are some wines that are considered vegan and some aren't, because they do use a process in wine that uses bone char through this.
How do you find that out?
It's online. You can find anything online, but I'll send you the information. But I honestly don't get worked up about that, if I have an opportunity to buy a wine that is organic and vegan, and especially if it's from like California or something, like it's more local, then I'll buy that wine. But I don't get freaked out about it. So go ahead, keep.
Sorry, do you think for someone that's just never done any of this, to start with being just a vegetarian first, or would you just take away into, vegetarian seems like it's a little bit easier. I mean, you can still have dairy, right? You can still have dairy, you can have fish, and vegan is very, nothing but fries, right? Or it's a lot of anything.
Vegan diet, and it's a good point. I should have said that from the very beginning. So there's no meat, fish, poultry, eggs, dairy, in terms of food. Some vegans don't eat honey, some do. Vegans also don't wear animal products, so leather, fur, silk, wool, down. It is a big change. The way I did it was, and this is how I kind of make my changes, so you have to understand how you make your own changes the best way. And I think yoga really helps with that, because you get quiet, you do your practice, or you meditate, whatever, and just if you're doing it regularly, it just happens, and you become more aware of yourself and what. But for me, the way I make change is I plant a seed in my own head, like, okay, I think I'm going to do this or this, I don't know. And I contemplate it for a long time, and no one really knows that I'm contemplating these changes. So when I actually make a decision, they think, wow, you just make decisions. Like, no. But it was just like with becoming vegan, I knew for a few months before I was actually going to do it that, okay, I'm going to do it. And for me, it is helpful to let that simmer inside so that it just becomes like, oh yeah, I can do this. Or, this is going to work out. This is the way. It's not like such a, it's a big change. And so there is a lot of components to it. I suggest doing it in the way you feel best about doing it and how you could sustain it. So if it means that you're going to go vegetarian, that's great. Another way you could do it is that there's all kinds of things you could do. There's an author that Mark Bittman. He pretty much is vegan until 5 o'clock. So his dinners aren't vegan, but so he's learning. He's doing it in a different way. There's meatless Mondays where people don't eat meat all day on Monday. Maybe just try it. One day a week, I'm going to be vegan, and you see how it goes. And if you do it like during the week or where it's your typical normal day, and you stick to it, so you do it on Wednesday, say, and then for some reason you have some work lunch on that Wednesday, you might request that your lunch is vegan. And just so you can experiment with how that is going to happen, because I wasn't comfortable with all this, but I was like, all right. So my first, I travel to clients' offices on occasion, and we tend to have lunch meetings so then we can fly back that night and just easier. And I'm always like, all right, who do I need to talk to this time to get, a lunch that I can eat? A lot of times I'll bring my own food just to make sure I don't starve. But there's a lot of ways you can experiment with it, and I think it's best to be gentle with yourself, but still have like an intention. If you're going to do it, stick with it, just to see how it is, because otherwise you won't ever know.
Christine, is there a yoga style or practice that helps you think about this in a positive way?
For me, no. There is actually this Jiva Mukti yoga. They really are animal rights activists. They're very strong vegans. This is what they do, and they teach yoga, and they're well known all over the world. But for me personally, no, I just, as long as I practice, that's, you know, and it gets away from me and then I know it. And so then I go back to it. And it's just something that I have found recently that I've been doing. You know, I had taken quite several different meditation classes before I even did Rhonda's teacher training. And then, you know, we studied about meditation in the training. And but this summer, but I never, meditation was just always like, my head hurt afterwards. I'd be like, oh. So this summer, though, I did a little experiment, and because I saw a TED video. Do you guys know what TED is? They do these talks. How would you describe that?
It's like technology conferences almost, and they do, I mean, they're talking about the whole brain. Or there's one like, someone posted it on, whatever.
They do them on all different subject matters now. They're like well-known experts in their field that speak to a large group of audience, usually very creative type people, not just like in arts, but they're very successful and creative in their whatever their field is. And so now they have like these smaller, shorter talks. And I saw one online about this guy suggested you choose one thing and do it every day for 30 days and see if your life changes. He was like certain my life was going to change. Everyone who watched the, you know, he was like, just try it. And I don't know why. I was just, okay, well, I'm going to meditate for 5 minutes every day. I'm not going to do it any more than that. Because I knew where I was with meditation. And so, and I actually made it quite comfortable for myself. And so, I mean, this isn't your traditional meditation at all. But I would sit on my couch with my legs crossed, and I'd have a pillow, and then one of my cats sits on top, you know. So I did it 30 days, 5 minutes a day. And I maybe missed like one day, and I noticed a difference. And I stopped doing it because I did my 30 days. I was like, okay. And then I started doing it a month later. I was like, no, I noticed a difference, and I want to do it again. So now I do it usually about 10 minutes, and I try to do it daily. Sometimes the days do get away from me, but what I noticed is that has been more helpful for me than my asana practice in terms of getting to know myself and to like be able to hear what just like maybe something that my mind was all too busy to hear before, something I wanted to do or an idea. I really felt my creativity opened up a lot from meditation. And I think that helps in terms of making these types of changes. So you can.
Did you taste, or did you just quiet your mind?
I just would sit there and I would try to focus on my breathing. I wasn't going to have all these rules because I'd taken like a couple classes from different Buddhist temples and I've read books, and I was just like, I'm just going to sit. And if my mind wanders the whole 10 minutes, then that's what happened that day. And I'm not going to be hard on myself about it. I'm just going to make sure I sit. I'm quiet. And it really started to help. And you know, definitely there are days where I think the entire time. And then there are days where I am able to come back to my breath, and I just focus on breathing for a little while, and then it starts to wander off, and then I come back, and that has been one of the most useful things I've probably ever done, is take up meditation on a regular basis. But I do think the whole yoga can help with change, so it's something to think about and be open to it helping you change however you feel you need to change.
I have a food question.
Mm-hmm.
So the dairy replacements, you know, the cheeses and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
are they equivalent nutritionally? I know I have the nutrition thing. 'Cause
Yeah.
I already know that I want it because of humanitarian reasons. I already have that in me, but it's more, I also want it for nutrition reasons.
I think that this would be a good book for you. This is the one. Usually when you're resisting something, in fact, there's this, she wrote in here, Carol Adams wrote in here, and I was like, oh my God, she had the same experience as me that she wrote. about resistance. What she realized, and she's talking about, I think kind of in general resistance, is that because she had learned about being vegetarian, and then I think it took her like a year to make the change or something. And then, you know, like she was going to go travel around the world. And then instead, she moved to some small town in New York to be with her fiance or something. And she's like, I never thought I'd do that. There's all this stuff. So she writes, many years later, I recognized that there is a pattern to my growth. My mind leads the way by judging. I would never do that. That's in quotes. And my conscious self believes this to be true. After all, it is a common enough thought. It establishes boundaries. It dams as it dams energy flow. So it's what she's saying, you know, it's this resistance, like, I'll never do that. It's like, I'll never give up cheese. I'm never going to wear ugly shoes, and this is me. She says, after several of these remarkable, life-changing nevers became my choice, I realized that whenever I find myself saying, I'll never do that, or I could never do that, it's a sign that I'm being led somewhere. The intensity of the reaction is my clue. Resisting what pulls me forward is an art I have cultivated for decades. And I was like, oh yeah, she's like telling my story, you know. So what I found is when I'm resisting something, then I should at least investigate it. I mean, you could get it from the library. So there's no money spent, and you could just look through it. And you know what? It is not the most page-turning book I've ever read, but I actually did read it, the whole thing. Yeah, it's not a page-turner, but if you just, you know, read a little bit here and there, maybe to, you know, kind of give you some more information. But the Vegan for Life book might be a good option too. Yeah, so, yeah. Do you have that list of movies? Did you pass that out to them too? Okay,
You want me to right now?
Oh, you
so
can.
comment on that?
Yeah, because there's actually a new, I haven't seen it yet. I'm really excited. I should be getting it soon. But there's a new documentary on being vegan, actually. So it might be one to look for. No, it's called Vegucated. So it's supposed to be an entertaining, a little more entertaining and funny. It's a girl in New York, she's the director, she documents 3 New Yorkers going vegan for like 6 weeks and their experience and stuff. It's just available on DVD now, so Netflix will probably get it eventually. I think she said in an email that they would be getting it soon, so. Vegucated. I also watched recently a really great yoga DVD called, I want to say it's Yoga Women. It's all about how yoga has helped women, and I thought it was very inspiring. Yoga Woman, I'll send you the name of that one too.
Other suggestions?
You should really watch Food Inc. too. Like Food Inc. is the first one, but like it'll actually like change your mind about a lot of things.
Oh yeah.
Which one?
Yeah.
Oh, do you already have that?
It's a really easy read. Yeah, it's funny and it's just funny the whole time.
There's also Skinny Bastard now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. I should do that.
Yeah, it's about how to convince your boyfriend that like, or convince like a guy that you know that they should do this and they should do that. It's really fun. So actually really good for you because it's got a lot of like recipes that are for. It's a book. Yeah. Skinny Bitch and Skinny Bastard.
Is there anything else?
Do you have any comments on
Oh.
the movies?
Well, I think, do you have forks over knives on here? That's a really good one. That's new. That's really a good one for nutrition if you're curious about vegan nutrition. Food Inc. is good. Fast Food Nation. Those are some that I definitely think are eye-opening.
No Impact Man, the documentary.
Yeah, I saw that one too. That's crazy. But
The guy wants to go off the grid, it's him and his wife and their daughter in Manhattan, and they don't leave any carbon footprint. Like, they don't have a refrigerator, no electricity, they only eat from like local gardens. Really cool. And the source is in the middle of Manhattan.
They are.
They don't have toilet paper.
A lot of these movies are great to share with people who might not know much about even if you do know things about it, from these sources, but it's great for people who you feel like it's been difficult for you to share or explain or convince in some situations and so forth. So you have sources to use and they're interesting and exciting and kind of commercial, but I think have so much value to
yeah,
watching.
I think getting, if people are resistant to, like if it's someone close to you and this is something you're interested in, but it's your partner or in some way your best friend, whatever, they're not, they're being resistant or not that supportive. One of the things I really think you have to do is become unattached to the fact that they may never support this, first of all. And then just let them come to it on their own. But you can, watch a movie or, suggest they read a book, but just make it as a suggestion. And if they don't want to, then don't let it hurt your feelings. It's their own, whenever they're ready. I was just at a yoga retreat, and it was a vegan yoga retreat, and there was a woman there who, she was vegan, and she was very passionate about it, and that is great, so am I. Her feelings would get hurt when her family members didn't support her or didn't listen, and that's not good for her. So, that stinks that, some of her family members aren't supportive, but that's why I feel it's super important to find people around, that do support you in however you want to live. I mean, that's good practice. So I would just, if there is, a movie is a really good way to get someone to, open their eyes a little bit, but just, it's not be forceful. And then I also have a few copies up here from Mercy for Animals. This, it's a short DVD. I don't think it's it's 12 minutes. It's called Farm to Fridge. If anybody wants to take one of these, more than welcome to have these. And you can share them with, there's probably not enough to go around. So if you don't want one, please don't take one. It's real footage. They do a lot of undercover work, but if there's anyone that's, interested or curious about how their food comes to the table, that's a good video to watch.
So what is your opinion on genetically modified foods?
I honestly don't really know that much about it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think I want my food to be as natural as possible. Yeah.
What's your opinion on secondhand leather?
What?
I only wear leather if it's secondhand. So
I think it's fine if that's what, it's.
You're not done supporting the industry. I was just curious what your thoughts were on it being like a pure vegan.
I personally, I don't. Just because I didn't like the questions. When I went vegan and I still had leather shoes and wool sweaters, I didn't like addressing the question. And I was in a position where I could replace those things. I know that that's not the way it is for everyone, and some people don't want to. I donated everything, so maybe you're wearing some of my leather shoes, you know. But I just didn't want to have to address that all the time. So I did replace everything, my shoes and, my fur coat. No, just kidding. Did not have a fur coat. But yeah, so I think that's fine. Thank you.
I have a question. Let's see. I'm trying to find a coat that does not have down,
Mm-hmm.
that's still warm.
Uh-huh.
Like I have a wool one. Do you have any ideas? Because I go in and I ask them, they're like, no, sorry. Patagonia?
So my coat is from North Face. I've actually had it for about 4 years probably. But this isn't, it's long. And it's made, it's not made of down. It's synthetic. It's warm. It's not as warm as down, I will say. So I always wear a fleece jacket underneath. But with a fleece jacket and this, I am completely warm. North Face I have another one, a shorter one too. So they definitely have a lot of them. But then that's another place, if you can always go to a secondhand store and get a wool coat, or if that's something, that's another way to stay warm. One of the things that I'm always talking about on my blog about being vegan is I don't think anyone should suffer. I don't think the animals should suffer, but I also don't think we should suffer. So, you have to stay warm in the winter, so you just need to find a way to do it. It's like, no suffering. I did want to, is there any more questions? I had one thing I wanted to read before we wrap up.
I guess I would like to hear more about wool and why, like what,
Mm-hmm.
that's what happens, because I knit and stuff.
Mm-hmm. So, there's, it seems like it would be innocent enough, but as quick as they're getting the wool, the fur off of the sheep, a lot of times they actually injure the animal. And the pictures are disgusting. And I think most of the wool that is the biggest problem is from Australia. But you can research that online, but it's not a harmless process. Maybe if it's a sheep in your backyard and you're doing it because you love that sheep and you're getting, but that's not how the wool is when you go buy it at Target or J. Crew or any of those stores. It's just, this actually is good. It comes back to the whole yoga and being vegan, is that ahimsa is it's the very first yama. It's the first thing that's even mentioned, is that non-harming, non-violence. And I want to live that way to the best of my ability. I'm not perfect, I have so many areas where I need to work on it. I think everybody does. It's just doing the best you can where you are. But when it just coming back to the animals, and I'm just not sure that even, my opinion is that using animals in the way we use animals in this society, in this culture, it's not necessary for us to be very happy people. So I just wanted to go the other way. And a lot of people do want to bury their head in the sand. They don't want to. I just got a bunch of comments on my blog by omnivores, saying, I don't want to see this. And, this isn't some videos that I had posted. And my opinion is the truth will set us free. So I would rather post it. And if someone doesn't want to watch it, that's fine. But it doesn't mean it's not happening. And just because I'm not doing the killing doesn't mean it's not happening. I'm just paying for someone to do it. So those are just the things that I think about, and I want other people to think about it. So anything else? I want to read one last little thing that I read from a book. So this is from a book called A Heart Full of Peace. And I actually read this quote. It was in O Magazine years ago. And so then I bought the book and read the book. But Joseph Goldstein is the author, and he wrote, "The commitment to morality or non-harming is a source of tremendous strength, because it helps free the mind from the remorse of having done unwholesome actions. Freedom from remorse leads to happiness. Happiness leads to concentration. Concentration brings wisdom, and wisdom is the source of peace and freedom in our lives." So I think that's yoga. So thank you.